Hi, this is a recorded lecture on the interpretation of the poem How Beautiful is the Rain, written by the American poet Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, prescribed by Mangalore University as compulsory foundation course in English for first semester BA and BSW. Let us look at the details of the poem. The learning objective of the lecture is to enable students to understand the thought of the poem along with its comprehension. The learning outcomes are to develop the students' intellectual skills. The second outcome is students are intended to improve the power of comprehension along with the skills of reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Let's ponder about some of the questions that act as background to understand this poem. You might have several experiences about rain. So, how do you react to rain? What are your childhood memories about it? Have you tried to express your experiences? Do you like reading, writing, singing, or painting about rain? What have you observed? What do people do when it rains heavily? Do they sit inside their house or go out and work? Do they enjoy working in the rain? Have you seen farms during summer and rainy season? Do you cherish memories like that of the description in this poem? Have you read any other poems by this poet, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow? Let's look at some of the details on the poet. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow was born in the year 1807 in a place called Portland, the then area of Massachusetts. Longfellow studied at Bowdoin College and became professor at Harvard College after traveling through Europe. He began publishing his poetry at a very early age. We understand that he began publishing his poetry at the age of 13. Longfellow wrote many lyric poems known for their musicality. He is considered as a very tall poet who brought lyrical and musical style to American poetry. He became the most popular American poet of his day and had success overseas. Let's look at the analysis of the poem, How Beautiful is the Rain. The poet recalls the impact of rain on different people in different places. After dust and heat, rain brings peace and the needed solace. Its various manifestations on earth makes it look beautiful and brilliant. The poet says, rain clatters on the roof like that of the tramps of hoofs. He uses a figure of speech called simile here. The clattering, the showers that fall on the tiled roof of the poet sounds like the of clattering of trams of hoofs. So we understand that the poet's house is not a tiled, is not a concrete one, but a tiled roof. So the water that falls from the sky rushes with new vigor. It gushes and struggles out of the puddles. It flows through gutters, tunnels, and roars. Then he goes on explaining that the water lashes on the window panes swift and wide. He goes on describing about the impact of rain on different people. We come across a sick man from his chamber seeing the beauty of the rain. What happens before his eyes is initially the water that falls on the roof flows down to the earth. Initially it makes small puddles, then it grows into twisted brooks and branches. Finally, he sees water everywhere, rushing and roaring. And this coolness of the water heals his fevered brain, and he blesses the rain with open heart. We come to yet another instance of the poet where neighboring school boys get excited after listening to and seeing the rain. They jump out of their classrooms and run to the wet streets. They dance with joy and scream with excitement. Within no time, all these school children make paper boats and sail them on the water in the small puddles. But unfortunately, the excitement is not long lasting. The water rushes, the stormy water soon spins the boats and swallows them. Then we come across other pictures of the hot summer has created drought-like situation to the lands far and wide, making it suitable for leopards to hide. The plains look like spotted leopards hide with dry grass and dry grain. Poet again and again reiterates that how welcome is the rain after dust and heat. So here, when it rains after such a heat, rain looks beautiful. We come across yet another picture. After hard labor, the yoked oxen patiently inhales scented air with wide nostrils and shining eyes, with vapors from well-watered and smoking soil. So the poet feels that the oxen is thanking the Lord without spoken word. We come across several instances like this. The poet now goes on to describe the farmer. The farmer from the sheltering trees sees his pastures and fields of grain bending their tops to the beating drops. He feels happy and contented for the gain from the rain. Poet sees the Greek god of water, Aquarius, walking the fenceless fields of air across the moving clouds, scattering rain everywhere like that of the farmer scattering grain. So the showers of the rain looks like the winnowing of the grain in the farm. Next, the poet says that there are experiences like this which have not been written, sung, or recorded. The poet grows philosophical. He wonders what happens to the scattered drops of rain. And then he imagines the water drops sinking into the graves of the dead, and further through cracks to the fountainhead, and further to lakes and rivers underground. And there are mysterious things beautifully appearing after the rain. The poet says, after the rain, the rainbow appears majestically with varied hues climbing up to the heaven at the time of setting sun. Now, with so many experiences, the poet at once becomes a seer, a saint, a saintly figure. He says he has experienced the sublime, he has experienced the sublimity because of the mysterious changes that he has witnessed time and on. He philosophically speaks of forms appearing and disappearing. The poet speaks of the eternal cycles of birth and death. The rain moving to and fro from earth to heaven and heaven to earth, the poet records with vivid details. He utters of the innumerable unknown cycles turning and rushing towards the river of time. Time here is metaphorically described as a river to mark its fluidity. So after looking at the analysis of the poem, let's go further to interpret the poetic style, tone, and figures of speech used in the poem. We see that the poem doesn't follow strict stanzaic form. It uses rhyme scheme very flexibly. As far as the tone of the poem is concerned, we understand that the poem celebrates rain. That means there is celebratory, and towards the fag end of the poem, the poet takes a philosophical tone, speaking of the cycles of birth and death, heaven, earth, rain, sublime experiences, and so on. As a poetic device, the poet uses alliteration. Here, the repetition of a consonant sound. For example, rapid and rushing river, fenceless fields, dry grass, drier grain, etc. He uses simile. For example, clatters along the roofs like the tramps of hoofs. The poet uses metaphor in the last line of the poem with the expression rapid and rushing river of time. Let's just look at some of the questions that sum up our understanding of the poem. What do you feel about the vocabulary used in the poem? Do you think it's very simple? Do you appreciate the poet's description of the schoolboys and their actions? Are your childhood memories on rain similar or different? What do you feel about the philosophical tone of the poet at the end of the poem? Have you had sublime experiences any time in your life? Do you believe that there are unknown and unseen things? What do you feel about the cycles of birth and death? Is it apt to describe time as a river? What does it suggest? Now let's move to the annotation part of the poem. Reference to the context. Look at the stanza. Read the following extracts and answer the questions that follow. With more than their wonted noise and commotion, and down the wet streets sail their mimic fleets, till the treacherous pool engulfs them in its whirling and turbulent ocean. Now let's look at the questions. Question number 1. Who is referred to in the extract? The answer is, it is the neighboring schoolboys who are referred to in the extract. Question number 2. How do they react to the rain? So the answer is, they make noise of excitement and run to the wet streets. Question number 3. What do they do in their excitement? Obviously, the answer is they shout and sail their paper boats. Question number 4. What happens with them? Answer is, paper boats spin in the stormy water and finally sink into the puddle. Let's look at the second annotation. Let me read the stanza. In the country, on every side, where far and wide, like a leopard's tawny and spotted hide, stretches the plain to the dry grass and the drier grain, how welcome is the rain. So the first question on the extract is, how has the heat affected the land? The answer is, the heat of the summer has dried every kind of vegetation around and turned them yellow. Question number 2. What does the poet compare the dry land with? Answer. The dry land is compared to leopard's hide. Question number 3. Mention the 2 adjectives used for the leopard in the extract. So it is tawny, one of the adjectives, and the other adjective is spotted. So if you remember, leopard's skin has this yellowish, brown and spotted elements. Question number 4. How is the rain welcomed in the extract? Answer. The parched bit of land is overjoyed on the arrival of rain, and there is excitement and thanksgiving from all the creatures. Let's move to the annotation 3. Let me read the stanza. From birth to death, from death to birth, from earth to heaven, from heaven to earth, till glimpses more sublime of things unseen before, unto this wondering eyes reveal the universe as an immeasurable wheel, turning forevermore in the rapid and rushing river of time. Let's look at the questions. Question number 1. Which cycle does the poet talk about in this extract? The poet talks about the endless cycles of birth and death. Question number 2. By whom is this cycle symbolized and how? Answer. This cycle is symbolized by rain. Like birth and death, rain evaporating and rising from earth, forming clouds and then showering down is like birth and death. Going and coming eternally, repeating the cycle is expressed symbolically by the poet. Let's look at the third question. What does the poet say in the last 3 lines? Answer. Like birth and death, there are many more cycles which keep cycling and repeating in this universe which we are unaware of. They are rushing through time. Question number 4. The poet uses 2 poetic devices in the last line of this extract. Identify them. Answer. The poet uses alliteration and metaphor. So now let's move to the multiple choice questions. Question number 1. How does the poet call the rain? Option A, furious, B, serious, C, beautiful, D, nuisance. Can you guess which of the option is right? The answer is C, beautiful. Let's look at the second question. What is the rhyme scheme of the first stanza? A A B B A, A B A B A, A B B A A, or none of the above? The answer is A B B A A. Let's move to the third question. When is the rain welcome? Before the dust and heat, after the dust and heat, before the thunder and lightning, after the thunder and lightning? Answer is after the dust and heat. Look at the fourth question. What does the oxen inhale? Vapors of smoking soil, well-watered air, clover-scented wind, or none of the above? Answer is clover-scented wind. Look at the fifth question. What engulfs the paper boats of schoolboys? Wild leper, wonted noise, wet streets, treacherous pool. The answer is treacherous pool. Look at the sixth question. What does the farmer see? Option A, rain scattering everywhere. B, the poet. C, pastures and fields of grain. D, none of the above. Answer is pastures and fields of grain. So let's move to the seventh question. What does the poet see? Patient oxen, Aquarius old, twisted brooks, or sheltering trees? Answer is Aquarius old. Eighth question. Where are the fountain heads of lakes and rivers? Underground, on the rainbow, at the setting sun, in the heaven? Answer is underground. Ninth question. Which cycle does the poet refer in the last stanza? Is it heaven and hell, birth and death, heaven and heathen? None of the above. Answer is birth and death. Last question, the 10th one. Who is the seer referred in the poem? Is it the farmer? Is it the sick man, the poet, or the rainbow? The answer is the poet. References used in the preparation of this lecture are two books. The textbook for English language titled Kaleidoscope 1, prescribed by Mangalore University for BA and BSW first semester, published by Trinity Publications in the year 2019. The other text used is the Oxford Advanced Learners Dictionary. Thank you.